The note from my lawyer felt weighty in my hands as I scanned its contents, a harbinger of the impending divorce proceedings. I couldn't help but smile, a mix of anticipation and resignation settling over me. My gaze shifted across the room, landing on Laura, my soon-to-be ex-wife, seated with her lawyer. She met my eyes, offering a nervous but oddly confident smile. Laura, deep down, didn't truly want the divorce I sought. 25-plus years of marriage had provided her a life of comfort. With our youngest off to college, she had the luxury of remaining out of the workforce, free from the pressures of employment. She believed reconciliation was in the cards, especially if only she had a counselor sympathetic to her perspective. Her confidence stemmed from one name: Judge Reynolds, our family court judge. Judge Reynolds, an infamous figure in our county, was reputed to be biased in favor of wives. Rumors circulated about his biased decisions, and it was said that he never sided with husbands, regardless of the wives' actions. Laura's smugness was fueled by the belief that her fate rested in the hands of a man whose office, according to urban legend, boasted an extensive collection of male scrotums. As the bailiff called for everyone to stand, Judge Reynolds lumbered into the courtroom, his weight protesting the reinforced chair. His flushed face hinted at the exertion of moving from lunch to bench. The room hushed as he glanced over the notes before him, nodding to the bailiff to proceed. This is the continuation of Brown versus Brown, the Honorable Judge Reynolds presiding. The rustle of clothes echoed through the courtroom as everyone settled. When prompted to stand, I reluctantly rose, feeling the judge's mocking gaze. Reynolds wasted no time, acknowledging my recent 30-day stint in jail, the fourth for contempt of court. His opposition to my sentence stemmed from his unwavering belief in mandatory couples counseling for marriage dissolution. Marriage, he claimed, was a divine institution requiring every available resource to prevent its breakdown. He challenged me, asking if I was now willing to give Laura a chance to explain, under the guidance of a professional counselor, how I had failed her. Suppressing the urge to retch at his words, I reluctantly agreed to comply with counseling if, after stating my case, both Laura and the judge insisted on it. I took a deep breath, surprised at my ability to articulate my thoughts in the face of Reynolds's notorious disregard for rules. Despite my attorney's assurance that I could speak freely, the judge's track record of unrestrained decisions lingered in my mind. I began recounting my 27-year marriage, highlighting the stress of entrepreneurship and my unwavering commitment despite temptations. However, I vehemently asserted that I didn't deserve the betrayal I discovered on March 20th. Walking in on a stranger in my living room, coupled with the sounds of intimacy upstairs, had left me shocked and humiliated. The judge, unmoved, interjected, emphasizing his role in protecting the sanctity of marriage, irrespective of the parties' conduct. Undeterred, I continued, detailing the scene of finding my wife with a gym teacher in our bedroom. Laura, visibly distressed, seemed uncomfortable with our dirty laundry being aired. The judge, impervious to the moral nuances, dismissed my grievances, emphasizing his commitment to the institution of marriage. As I approached the conversation with Laura after her lovers left, the judge irritably interrupted, inquiring about the impending assault case. The judge's indifference to the morality of society and his singular focus on salvaging marriages frustrated me. I forged ahead, expressing my disbelief at the situation and Laura's demand that I accept her infidelity or file for divorce. The judge's disapproval lingered, but I pressed on, emphasizing that the expiration date on my offer for a swift divorce was 1 hour. If unsigned, we'd proceed to counseling, a charade I doubted would change anything. My attorney then presented the divorce settlement offer, detailing the transfer of assets and the conditions for financial resolution. Laura and her lawyer engaged in a heated discussion, ultimately agreeing to the terms. The judge, disappointed by greed triumphing over principle, ratified the deal, officially dissolving the marriage of David and Laura Brown. As we all stood, the gavel pounded, and Judge Reynolds, his chair groaning in relief, waddled away. Glancing at Laura's table, I observed her and her lawyer grinning, seemingly oblivious to the impending unraveling of her life. The judge's decisions, wrapped in a facade of sanctity, left me resentful and skeptical of justice. The courtroom drama concluded, but the repercussions of this showdown etched into the uncertain chapters of my post-divorce life. I woke up the morning after the divorce proceedings with a sense of liberation. The weight of a failed marriage had lifted, and I could finally envision a new chapter in my life. As I skimmed through the note handed by my lawyer, a triumphant smile crept across my face. I had a plan to settle the score with Judge Reynolds, the puppet master of broken marriages. Lucy, my friend with benefits, proved invaluable in executing my revenge. She was younger, not too smart, but her generous soul, stunning body, and beautiful blue eyes served as the perfect distraction. As I received news of the ratified deal, I called Lucy to share the victory. I arrived at her place with a bottle of sparkling wine. The law no longer allowed calling it champagne, but labels mattered little in the grand scheme. Lucy, inebriated and carefree, was an insatiable force. We lost ourselves in passion, reveling in our liberation. In the midst of our ecstasy, her husband stumbled into the room. It was none other than Judge Reynolds himself, the man who had dared to judge my broken marriage. I seized the opportunity to taunt him. "Hello, Judge Reynolds. Welcome home. I'm just helping Lucy adjust to your shortcomings as a husband." He lunged at me, fists flying, as Lucy, still under the influence, tried to intervene. With a swift knee to his groin, I brought him down. The entire scene played out beautifully on the bedside camera. Reynolds, once a figure of authority, had fallen from grace. Expelled from the Law Society and jailed for assaulting Lucy, he became an outcast even among fellow inmates. His reputation couldn't protect him, and he endured constant harassment. Media sharks circled the story of the fallen judge, exposing Laura's deeds to the nation. The repercussions were severe. She lost her home, spiraled into debt, and aged 20 years in the process. My revenge extended beyond personal satisfaction. It dismantled the life of the man who thought he held all the cards. Unable to attend Reynolds' assault hearings due to my new island residence, I relied on the footage of our confrontation. Laura's story became a cautionary tale, amplifying my newfound infamy. The judge, once feared, had become a urinal for divorced men with lingering anger issues. As I lay under the tropical sun, I pondered my actions. Reynolds had become a mere shadow of himself, a recluse until his untimely death 5 years later. The grave that once symbolized authority had transformed into a symbol of retribution for those wronged by his biased decisions. My revenge was complete, and I reveled in the downfall of a man who had played puppeteer with the sanctity of marriage. As I reclined under the tropical sun, contemplating the azure waters, my mind wandered back to Laura. The media frenzy had pounced on her story like sharks smelling blood. Her tale, once a national spectacle, now became a cautionary narrative of hubris and downfall. Laura's life post-divorce was far from the luxury she had once reveled in. The opulent house she seized with confidence turned out to be mortgaged up to its eyeballs. The illusion of financial security she thought she had was shattered, much like the remnants of our broken marriage. Unable to pay her mounting debts, Laura lost her home, a symbol of the excessive lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. The once extravagant woman was reduced to a one-bedroom apartment, a far cry from the expansive residence she once shared with me. Laura, the waitress, became a reality. The woman who hadn't worked a day since our youngest left for college found herself navigating trays and orders. Her descent into the mundane world of employment aged her prematurely, the toll of the stress etched on her face like wrinkles etch themselves onto time-worn paper. The media, relentless in its pursuit of sensational stories, chronicled her every move. Laura's humiliating journey was a spectacle for the nation to witness. The once glamorous socialite became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that life's excesses could crumble in an instant. As I basked in the glow of my new life, I couldn't help but reflect on the karmic justice that seemed to play out. Laura's story, splashed across headlines, showcased the consequences of her actions. The friends who once surrounded her drifted away, unable to bear the weight of her scandalous behavior. The final blow to Laura's erstwhile life was the loss of her social standing. No longer a revered figure in high society, she became a pariah. The same circles that once clamored for her attention now shunned her presence. Laura, who had reveled in excess, found herself isolated in the solitude of her own making. The children, during their visits, brought me updates on Laura's continuing misfortunes. Each piece of news reaffirmed my decision to distance myself from a woman who had betrayed our vows and tarnished the sanctity of our marriage. As they spoke of her struggles, I couldn't muster an ounce of sympathy, for the consequences she faced were the direct result of her choices. Judge Reynolds, whose biased decisions had fueled Laura's misplaced confidence, had become a mere footnote in her unraveling story. The media, having moved on to fresher scandals, left Laura to grapple with the wreckage of her own creation. As I lay under the tropical sun, I contemplated the tranquility that had become my life. Tomorrow marked the arrival of my children for the third time on this island, a place where they had formed a deep connection with Lucy. The simplicity of her soul had endeared her to them, and I knew any affront to her would incur their disapproval. The children's presence would undoubtedly bring news of Laura's continuing struggles. Her fall from grace had been swift and profound, a consequence of her actions in the aftermath of our divorce. I had glimpsed into her world, learning that she lost her home, abandoned our neighborhood in humiliation, and settled into a one-bedroom apartment while shouldering the demands of waitressing. The toll of her choices had etched the passage of time on her face, aging her 20 years in just a span of 5 months. The kids had initially attempted to advocate for her forgiveness during their first visits. However, my resolute stance remained unshaken. I shared with them the unvarnished truth, the tapes capturing the moment I discovered her infidelity, her subsequent confession, and the audacious demands that severed any hope of leniency. The once close relationship we had, built on respect, now existed only as a distant memory. I pondered on whether Laura possessed the strength to drive trains now. However, I pushed aside these negative thoughts, determined to focus on the positivity surrounding me. Lucy, the woman beside me, embodied a refreshing change. Her radiant smile greeted the morning sun even before she opened her captivating blue eyes.